Hey folks, in this video we're talking about creating your financial plan if you want to leave the US and move abroad. These are some things you should start to consider so that you can plan for your process. Full disclosure. Now I know people want me to give them it's going to cost you $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month to move to a country. And I can't give you that naturally because it depends on the country you move to and the visa that you choose within that country. So what I can give you is some resources and some links so that you can do that research to find out what is the number for you and your family. And hopefully from that, you can feel a little bit more prepared as you go through this journey. So in the last week, we talked about tips about moving abroad. And now we're going to focus on kind of laying out, seeing how much all of this may cost you. Many countries have what's called a golden visa. And this golden visa can change names based on the country. But basically, this is the type of visa that you put in some type of financial investment. Sometimes it's real estate, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's donating money. And usually, depending on the country, that can range from $100,000 to close to $1 million. These visas tend to give you some flexibility in regards to how or if you have to stay in the country. And on the other hand, we have the student visa. So the student visa is probably going to be one of the lesser expensive visas, but it will require you obviously to be in the country at least until the time in which your classes are commencing and ending. It's one of the easier visas to get in most countries. Now, what's important to understand is there are so many visas in between. You can have a journalist visa, employment visa, short stay visa. There's so many visas. And yes, that does say sweetheart visa. What is a sweetheart visa? I only learned about this like 4 years ago. But this is a visa that, let's say you get a boo thing that lives in another country and you all have had a relationship over the course of months, if not years. You can have your partner apply for a visa in that country. Not all countries do it. I think Portugal, Spain, Germany may still do it. So you do have to check and see. It's not necessarily going to be called the sweetheart visas. It depends on what it's going to be called in the language of that country. But that is also an option. So let's look at some examples so this makes a little bit more sense. So right now we're here at the federal website of the Republic of Croatia. And Croatia has a temporary digital nomad visa. So this visa is for those individuals who are not EU citizens and they are either employed by a company or they have their own company that is not registered in Croatia, in which they can work for their either employer or themselves inside of Croatia. So naturally, this has all the things you need to do to apply, but I want to take you down to where they talk about finances. You want to have proof that you can support yourself in their country. And what does that look like? That can be a bank statement requiring the amount for the year. It can be they say pay slips, but we usually call them pay stubs in the US of the last 6 months that shows the required monthly amount. Or you can show the bank statement showing the monthly amount. So let's talk about what the monthly amount looks like. Currently, the amount required on a monthly basis is a minimum of about 2,900 euros per month. So again, that's about 3,000 euros a month or about 35,000 euros in your account. Now, that's what you need for the visa. But naturally, the visa is also going to say you need to have accommodations for a year. So you need to take your accommodations into account and any additional incidentals. Now let's look at the student visa bit. So here we're at Lisboa, which is one of the universities in Portugal, and you can get a better idea if you do want to leave for, again, 4 years or so, just to give you some ideas as to what tuition costs will look like. So per year, this is looking about $7,000 per year for your master's or your bachelor's. And then of course, depending on which PhD coursework you decide, it's going to be fees associated with it. This fee is for international students, those individuals who are from Portugal. I'm not sure if EU in general as well, the price is like substantially lower. And next we're talking about the student visa as it relates to the UK. How much money you'll need depends on where you'll be studying. So for courses in London, it's going to run about £1,300. And for courses that are outside of London, it can run about £1,000. Remember, pounds are typically higher than USD, so you're going to have to do that currency conversion. So if you apply on January 2nd, 2025, you'll need about £1,500 per month to support yourself. But if you're boarding at a residential independent school, you'll pay the boarding fees that are associated with that school. So now let's check out Portugal's version of the golden visa. So for Portugal, and this visa has changed a lot. It's now called the resident permit for investment. This lists some of the benefits of getting this visa. And as you can see here, you can reside and work in Portugal, and you must stay in Portugal for at least a period of 7 days in the first year and nothing less than 14 days in the subsequent years. So for individuals who can't necessarily be in Portugal or live in Portugal at the time, and you have the financial ability, you can kind of pay to become a resident or work on citizenship. Let's look at what they require financially to do that. Now, the Golden Visa used to be that you could actually purchase property in various parts of Portugal, and that can put you on the path of citizenship. That doesn't exist anymore. Finding lodging in Portugal had become such an issue that they adjusted the parameters of this specific visa to accommodate that. So some of the requirements: if you create at least 10 jobs in Portugal, you can transfer 500,000 euros, and this can go toward research activities for the public or private sector. You can do 250,000 euros, and this will go more so toward the arts. You can transfer 500,000 euros, and this will go to non-real estate collective investment undertakings. And you can do 500,000 euros in other forms of investment. So for the Golden Visa specifically for Portugal, it's going to range anywhere from 250,000 euros to 500,000 euros. So I hope that gives you a better idea of seeing where things vary. But if you go to the actual country in their federal website, it'll tell you financially what they require. In addition to what the country would like to see that you have for your visa, you still want to consider other things like your application fee, the proof of sufficient funds that the country requires, lodging for the amount of time that you have your visa. This is going to look like a rental lease in most cases. And in the cases of, let's say, a short stay visa, they're going to want to see your ticket back to your home country. Once you determine the financial either proof or requirements that that country and the visa requires from you, you want to consider other administrative costs. Oftentimes you're going to have to get things notarized or apostilled. I would recommend you do a complete health check before you leave. Get all of your medical records together so that you can take that with you when you go to your new country. If the visa requires any particular vaccinations, you want to consider that as well. Most countries are going to require that you get some type of police clearance. Sometimes this is going to look like an FBI background check. And in some cases, you may need an immigration attorney. When I moved to Portugal, I didn't need an immigration attorney throughout the whole process, but applying for residency and definitely for citizenship, I will get an immigration attorney. Deciding if you need one depends on your personal bandwidth. If you feel like you want someone to sit down and show you and walk you through the process, then go ahead. If you're someone that's really good at pulling the documentation together yourself, then you can totally do it yourself. Depending on the country. Some countries, the process is much difficult, but like I said, for Portugal, I did mine myself, so you can do it yourself if you're that type of person. Now, we've dealt with everything you need as far as the country. Now you want to think about you and what type of life you want to live. I rented furnished apartments for the first 3 years that I lived in Portugal. And for me, after now furnishing this apartment, it was so much less stress and work. So I would actually recommend that. But again, you're grown, do what's best for you and your family. But it is an additional capital outlay if you want to buy furniture in the chosen country. If you're the type of person who dines out a lot, you want to consider that. And let's say you don't have any idea how much it costs to eat out in a particular country. You can go to Google Maps and you can search restaurants in that country, and then you can go click on their menu and see their prices and get a better idea as to how much that it costs. Multiply that by how many times you eat out per week, then by the month, and that can give you some rough numbers. Transportation, you want to see if the country offers various maybe public transportation incentives. So for example, in Portugal, there is a monthly pass you can purchase that will get you on the majority of the public transportation here, between the bus, the train, the metro. It's a great deal. Any exercise programs? Do you belong to a gym? Do you want to continue to belong to a gym? How much is that going to cost? These types of things you can research online. So between the visa, what is required by the country based on the visa, the legal and administrative costs, and how you want your comfort of living to be, this is hopefully how you can create your financial plan. I know you see how the numbers are kind of all over the place, but hopefully you were able to see something that you can do. Depending on the visa, it will say maybe you need this amount, or maybe you need this lump sum, or you need to invest here. The visa is really going to dictate that process. I really hope I was able to show you how if you start at the visa, then you can kind of reverse engineer what you need to do from there. So now I'm going to show you some remote job listing sites. In the next video, I'll spend the whole video talking about creating online income. That was the process that I did in order to move from the US to Lisbon, Portugal. And I'll spend a significant amount of time trying to help you see what your options are there. But let's look at the job sites real quick. So here's the thing. In LinkedIn, whatever you think about LinkedIn in the US, I get it. But Outside the US specifically, a lot of companies are going to ask to see your LinkedIn page. Some companies outside the US exclusively want you to file your application through LinkedIn. Like there's no other way to do it. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile and you're thinking about moving out the country, just consider the idea. So here we're at FlexJobs. And FlexJobs is something you can use to do research. Now, they probably are going to try to upsell you on something. I definitely would not recommend that. But you can come here to do some research and you can search job titles and put in specific locations. Next, we're going to look at remotehub.com. And so you can scroll down and look at various opportunities in different countries. They'll tell you the location, whether you have to be there or if it's remote. And so you can base that based on temporary contract and those type of things. And again, all of these links are going to be in the description. Remote.co is pretty popular and you can determine what industry and look at what's available. So these were posted about 2 hours ago and you can peruse through here. Again, you can use these sites just to do the research. Sometimes they'll name the company and then you can go directly to the company and apply there. Or a lot of cases, they'll tell you to go to their LinkedIn page and apply there. And this is weworkremotely.com. And so again, you check and peruse through there. And this is Indeed Global. So if you go to indeed.com/global, this will show you the positions that are available within that country. So those are just some websites to make it helpful, but you also want to search in the language of the country in which you're moving to. Now, this is DeepL. This is a translating website. It's probably one of the best ones. You can type in something like job listing websites. That is what it's called in French. I don't know any French. Then you can type that into Google, and this will give you the country-specific websites that they use in order to look for jobs. Each country focuses on different job sites, so you want to make sure that you're searching in the job sites in which they use. So I hope that was helpful. Next video, we're going to talk about creating online income. And I know I couldn't give you like a specific amount of how much you're going to need, but hopefully from this, you've been given some resources to be able to kind of reverse engineer that for yourself. I hope. Until next time.